All right, good evening and welcome to the Hartland Township Planning Commission meeting of September 14th, 2017. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Keith, would you take roll, please?
Sure, I think I remember. How? Chairman Fox?
Here.
Jeff Newsom?
Here.
Joe Kalani?
Here.
Sue Grissom?
Here.
Mike Mitchell?
Here.
Tom Murphy?
Here.
And we have a full vote.
All right, sounds good. We'll move on to item 4, approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Kalani, a second from Commissioner Newsom. Are there any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 5A, Planning Commission regular meeting minutes for July 13, 2017.
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes for July 13th, 2017.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Voigt, a second from Commissioner Grissom. Are there any changes? Seeing nothing, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, our Planning Commission meeting minutes of July 27, 17.
I move to approve the Planning Commission minutes for July 27th, 2017.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Mitchell, a second from Commissioner Murphy. Are there any changes? None again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I do have, I'm sorry.
Yep, you're
I was
fine.
looking at
Moving
them
too
and
quick on you?
Real quick, it references that Commissioner Newsom was away, but he, in the
I
minutes,
was
he was
late.
present.
Yeah, if you read further in there, it's, I showed up a bit late that day.
Is there any reason you brought that up, Joe?
No, I didn't know what away meant. I've never seen that.
It means not present.
Not present means not present. I was absent, so I don't know.
Okay.
We'll use not present in the future.
Okay.
All right?
Away.
So,
Away.
okay. Oh, my.
You lost control.
Already. Item 6 is call to the public. If there is anyone that would like to address the commission, we have a call to the public now. And we have one after we finish our new and old business. So if you'd like to come forward, give us your... Yeah, alrighty, great. Give us your name again there in the microphone and anything you'd like to say.
Good evening. My name is George Bracco. I'm the president of Fox Ridge Condominium Association. And a couple points that I'd like to bring before the board tonight. Fox Ridge 1 and Fox Ridge 2 want to make it clear to the township that while a site plan for Hunter's Ridge may be nearly identical to prior site plan for Fox Ridge development, Hunter's Ridge will not be part of the Fox Ridge Condominium Association. The Fox Ridge Condominium project was formally contracted by Fifth Third Bank via amendments to the master deed such that Fox Ridge is now only the existing construction, meaning that we are the size we are. Additionally, the 6-year period in the master deed during which the Fox Ridge project might have been expanded by the developer has lapsed, and at the recent annual homeowners meeting, Fox Ridge associations voted to not include any new Hunter's Ridge units within the Fox Ridge master associations. Now, with that information for background, please be aware that Fox Ridge 1 and Fox Ridge 2 have concerns regarding MJC Fox Ridge LLC's potential use of the Fox Ridge roads for construction purposes, which will likely damage the private roads beyond just normal wear and tear allowable under MJC's easement rights. Also, like the township attorney, Fox Ridge 1 and Fox Ridge 2 have concerns about making sure that any new owners in the proposed Hunters Ridge development be required to pay for their share of use and maintenance of the private Fox Ridge streets. To that end, Fox Ridge 1 and Fox Ridge 2 have retained legal counsel regarding use and contributions for maintenance and repair of the Fox Ridge private roads and walks by MJC Fox Ridge LLC and by any new unit owners proposed by Hunters Ridge Development. Our council has begun discussions with MJC's council. However, no formal agreement has been reached yet, and we have been told in writing by MJC employees that MJC's plans to move forward seemingly with or without Fox Ridge entities' involvement, which makes us somewhat nervous, like we talked about last time we were here. As such, as in an effort to protect the existing Fox Ridge residents' rights for contributions to the maintenance of the streets and walks, I would like to move that a motion proposed by the Planning Development to the Planning Commission be amended to include an additional condition requiring that the proposed amendment and master deed and bylaws of Hunters Ridge shall be subjected to written approval of Fox Ridge 1 of Hartland and Fox Ridge 2 of Hartland Condominium Association. All what we're asking for is for our attorneys to continue working together, for us to be in agreement, as we discussed last time, and I think Commissioner Newsom and your attorney also pretty much agreed that the verbiage in our master deed left it kind of loose as to the responsibilities of any projects being built after it was closed. And all we're asking for is for the verification process that when their master deed is proposed, that we be allowed to look at it, the township be allowed to look at it, and all parties be in agreement that all parties are protected equally. Because as it stands now, they have an open deed to their property, and from what the county has told us, there is nothing from their open deed connecting them to our deed, our master deed. So there's a lot of concern on the township's attorney and our attorney that, is it really binding? Can they just come in, build this community, and there is nothing protecting us? And that's what we're asking for. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Sure, come on forward. If we could get your name.
Sure. My name is Tim Easley. I'm the Vice President of the Cobblestone Preserve Homeowners Association, and I just came tonight to show that we as an association are in full support of the lot coverage amendment that we have on your agenda here later down the list.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close call to the public. There's also one after we're done with our new business this evening. We'll move on to item 7A, site plan application number 17-014, Cobblestone Preserve PD. This is an amendment for the lot coverage on the approved site plans. I think probably the easier thing to do, and as typical, would be to turn this over to Troy and allow him to explain this proposal.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. I don't think this is a terribly complicated matter. I don't know if that helps. I'm using maybe I'll use a zoning map instead. This is a zoning map of Hartland Township. M59 would somewhat go through the center of this, east and west, and then 23 here going north and south. Cobblestone Preserve is in this general area here. It was approved as a planned development. Not necessarily the same type of planned development that we would approve today. This is a little bit older planned development, and when it was approved, it was essentially approved as a site plan. They modified the lots. They allowed the lots to be smaller than the current zoning. They waived some of the setback standards, but there's no PD agreement with this. So if you can recall, a month or so ago, we had a similar type proposal with Hartland Estates. That was a PD, and it had a PD agreement, and we modified the PD agreement, the language in there, to correct some lot coverage issues. In this one, it's a little different. There's no actual formal agreement, textual agreement, so it's a modification to the site plan, and it only requires approval from the Planning Commission. It will not have to go on to the Township Board. Similarly to Hartland Estates, the staff had received, and it's funny how these come in waves. We were hit with a wave in one subdivision, and now suddenly we've been hit with a wave in this subdivision where we've discovered, starts with a permit to construct a new house, and it doesn't comply with the lot coverage requirements. And then suddenly a bunch of existing homes want to do decks, swimming pools, and so forth, and you discover, well, they can't do their projects either because they don't comply. And in fact, the existing house that's there doesn't comply with the lot coverage. The way the lot coverage works, maybe I should back up. There are two lot coverage standards. There's one if you are on well and septic, and there's another if you are on municipal water and sewer. This subdivision, when it was approved, was intended to be hooked up to septic, municipal sewer, but it was originally designed to be septic, and so at some point there was going to be a transition, and it never happened. So not all, but most of the lots, the vast majority of the lots, there's only a couple that are hooked up to municipal sewer. The vast majority of them out there are on private septic systems, which means their lot coverage is capped at something like 15%. Vast majority of the homes in this subdivision do not comply with that. What we did is went through, analyzed a handful of them. We've put together a couple of plans that show the different, what the different lot coverages would look like as an illustration. We used one of the requests that we had and just kind of modified it. This particular subdivision has some sensitive issues that the Hartland Estates did not. There's some soil concerns here, so we had to take that into consideration, and that's why you're seeing a slightly different recommendation from staff than what you saw in Hartland Estates. This one, I think the recommendation we put together is 25% if you were on private septic, with a provision that you could go up to 30% if you have got documentation from the county health department showing a private septic system and reserve field. We've got permits out there where swimming pools are located on top of what was shown as their septic system and reserve. So in this case, I would like better documentation that they have adequate septic field and reserve before we jump up to that 30%. So that's why in this case we've got a slightly different recommendation. I'll just leave it open for questions.
Isn't this area also all set up for, wasn't this, I thought this was supposed to be sewered, and there's a sewer system.
It was supposed to be, and if my memory is correct, they were supposed to run the pipe.
Right.
They did not run the pipe.
I
So
thought
there
the
is no
pipe
pipe in the road.
There's no pipe in the road.
There was
I'm trying
supposed to be.
remember when, because it was not long after Mill Point opened up, and that pipe was supposed to be expanded. And I think that Township Board, at that point in time, made a decision it wasn't going to extend the sewer or do something, but it always has the right to run the sewer. And my concern here is that if we're decreasing the amount of lot size here. The problem with that is it could result in, when these septic systems start failing, and they will, because they're only temporary, you don't have a reserve, and you reduce the size, this community may look at having to have sewers there.
This was, if you go through the file on this,
Yes.
which I had to do because
Right.
I wasn't here when this subdivision went through, it wasn't fully intended to be
Part of the sewer system.
part of the sewer system. And in fact, when the developer was putting this together,
Marshall Blanc.
they made comments about putting language in their master deed that would require all future homeowners to hook up, even if they didn't want to. And there is language in that master deed to that effect. And I think when it came before the township, they just decided not to force them to hook up. And then here we are, 15, 20 years later, and you've got a number of residents that have spent significant money to repair their septic systems and are not interested in having just spent $10,000, $15,000 to repair their septic system to have to spend an equal amount now again to hook up. So that's more of a political question for the board to deal with, and I didn't get into that as much here. And we're not necessarily reducing the lot size, we're increasing the lot coverage, but I believe there still would be sufficient area to put, and we've got plans, so you can see the plans, and they have a septic as well as a reserve area on there, and I've kind of just tried to put a caveat in there. If they want to go to that extra 5%, then they have to have, they need to come in and show me, because I'm finding objects are located. See, this is a plan, this is the subdivision plan, and I'll zoom in, and on this plan, when it was approved, it shows the septic system. I'm picking on lot 71. I'm not trying to pick on anyone in particular, but you can see the septic and the reserve are shown here. And those are areas, when this was approved, that were set aside to
How come they were
work for
given
that.
land use for pools?
if we could go in along here. I don't know. They just did. I have to just deal with the,
I know.
that's what it is.
I'm just kidding. They got to go through that department, so.
So this is the plan that showed that's where the septics and the reserves were supposed to be, and now we've got structures on top of some of these things. And I don't want to allow any residents to move forward until they can prove to, at least my department, that the county health department has approved a different location on this property. That's why I've kind of thrown that in there. If that makes sense. Did I go on too long?
Yeah, and is it my understanding that even if you don't have adequate room for your reserve, you can do some very expensive excavating and put a field back in where an old field was?
Yeah.
So if they end up with a couple people caught there, but the problem right now is that some of these homes are bigger than the lot coverage permitted, just the house. You got houses that are covering more than 15%.
Yes. You got
When the
some-
maximum permitted is 15. No one can explain what happened 20 years ago.
You've got some that are over 25%. And when I say some, we didn't go through every single one. We just went through a handful, and in the handful we checked, many of those were over 25%. So I'll take any other questions you might have.
Well, I don't have any other than to acknowledge the fact that you went through the examples similar to the way you did in Hartland Estates. They somewhat explain the situation, these drawings. And
Those are hypothetical drawings
Right.
based on things we've seen with decks and additions and pools and stuff, just to illustrate what that might look like at 25% or at 30%. Just so you know, the lot coverage is based on any impervious surface, sidewalks, patios, decks, the house, the driveway, all that counts towards the lot coverage. Swimming pool, that's a little bit an odd one because the swimming pool itself doesn't, but the patio around it would count towards the lot coverage.
Well, and what I was going to say with these examples, you have to pick a value. If 25% is representative of what you're showing, I would support the 25. And if you want the proof, if you want to call it from the Livingston County Health Department, to bump it to 30, they're the ones in charge of septics. I don't know where else you go with it, from my point of view.
And then if they hook up to municipal sewer, I've just capped that at 30 as well.
Well, you can. There is no pipe in the road, though. So it was supposed to be. The only reason I know that is because of Meadowview.
Of Meadowview, that's right.
Because when the pipe came down Bergen to Meadowview, this subdivision was in discussion at the same time.
I'm trying to recall my,
And it was supposed to be there. That was long before my time involved also, but it wasn't there.
Troy, what is the rationale between not having the county health department approve even something at 25%? Why just at 30%?
Let me make sure I understand. Why is it that I don't require the county health department verification at 25%? What I found is with most of the permits that were issued, land use permits out there, they have adequate septic and reserve. You start getting to 30%, you're crowding that area, and most of them are right around the 25, 26%. 30% is giving a little of a cushion, if you will. But my thoughts are, if you're going to go that high, I'd like the documentation that you can do it on that lot. I'm seeing a lot of them out there already over 25% without that documentation. They show, all the site plans show the septic field and then the reserve. It looks like it works right now, but some of them I did see had other structures on top of it that they already exist. So I didn't want to allow any further than 25, then if you want to get up to 30%. So you're capped at 25%, which means you can't go to 26% or 25.2% until you've got something from the county health department.
So the county health department doesn't have to look at all lots to give approval?
We'd handle this on a case by case. They would go out and show me that lot. I wouldn't hold up one applicant that wants a deck because I need the whole subdivision tested. Did I answer your question there?
Yeah.
You know, I have to deal with these on a case by, some of these are very small projects. You know, when somebody comes in and wants to do a deck and the whole deck is $1,000 and I'm suddenly saying I need documentation from the county health department, they're not happy with me. And I'm focusing on just their project, and to take it beyond that and say, well, not only do I need county health department for your lot, I need county health department approval on the whole subdivision, I think might be a little extreme for some of these small projects that we deal with land use permits. Does that help?
I just wonder if you'd be protecting the homeowner if you did have the health department look at it.
Well, you have to remember that this was looked at, that this is a subdivision that did go through that process before. You know, if you want, we could add that extra layer on it all the time. I'm trying to make it as workable as I can, based on what I see out there. And I see a lot of them close to 25% right now. Some are even over. And they've been issued land use permits, so. I don't know if I've explained that. I can see your questions about wanting to have all that extra documentation. I'm just not sure at 25% it's needed, but if that's something you feel strongly enough about, just remember you're adding extra cost and delay when to give you a little understanding what it's like. I mean, I know all of you own homes, but when you're ready to do a deck, you've got a contractor. That contractor has slotted in a week to do your deck, and when you tell the contractor, well, I can't issue this permit until you go to the county health department, that adds time and delay, and that contractor might say, well, I can't get to your deck, so I'm going to hop on to another one. I'll get back to you when I have a slot opened up. There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle that you guys don't see here, and hopefully I'm giving you some taste of what that's like by if you add that in. That's some of the complexity you're going to be dealing with. Those have real world consequences on people that want to do what seems like a small project. And right now, one of the projects I've got that's being held up is a concrete patio in somebody's backyard. They're not too happy with me right now.
I just wonder if part of the county's approval would be to confirm that the homeowner knows where the septic system actually is, and that they didn't put the concrete or the deck over the top of it, or the swimming pool over the top of it, that it might be beneficial to them. It's only for that reason.
Yeah, well,
It would be beneficial to the homeowner.
I can tell you right now, we are asking, show me where that septic system is and show me where the reserve is. But I'm pointing out to you that I've stumbled across land use permits that show a structure right on top of some of that stuff, so.
I'm sure, yeah.
We're not, that's not something we're doing right now, though.
Okay, any other questions for Troy?
I'm just trying to make sure I kept up. What's the current proposed lot coverage, not proposed, what was the approved lot coverage?
When this project was approved as the PD, they didn't mention lot coverage at all.
Okay.
So then the default is you rely back on the zoning ordinance.
Which was what?
Which is 15%
15,
if you're on
that's what I
septic, 20%
sewer.
if you're on municipal sewer.
Okay, so we're already above that.
Oh,
And what was their original request for lot coverage? The association, are they requesting it or?
they have not.
Okay.
This came about, a builder wanted to construct a house that was, I think it's at 18%. So we said, you can't build that, you exceed the 15%.
And that's when you started investigating,
That's when
discovering.
well,
we were over.
yeah, because the first thought, I've been here a year and a half, but you tend to think, well, maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm not looking at this right. Let me look at how did we do this before? And you start looking at other houses, and you try to see how did those get approved? Because right across the street seems to be a similar house and driveway and nothing different. How did that one get there? And when you do that and you look through it and you calculate it, and well, that one probably shouldn't have had that approval. And now you've stumbled into problems, and my philosophy is, let's fix this. Let's not continue letting this go on. Let's try to fix this thing.
Yeah.
So,
I agree, but that's where
Well, I think what probably happened, it was a deficiency in detail back when the subdivision was approved. And houses were proposed and houses were approved. And that's why we get into requiring so much detail these days. So when people in the future go back and look at things, things are taken care of. I really think what he's trying to show with the drawings, and I was not involved in any of this until it showed up on the agenda, is what exists there. And he would like us to amend the approved site plan to accept what is there today and allow the other neighbors that don't have that to get what their neighbors already have. and he's looking for verification when it gets up over the 25 and gets into the 30% from the county for the reserve, because we didn't even have that before.
Okay.
But to go in and put a lesser amount on this, say 20%, would
We'd have-
still not solve the problem of all the people that are already there
They're all
sitting at
non-compliant.
25.
They'll be all non.
So they're all non-compliant
Yeah,
again.
that's not
So I think he's trying to right the wrong and move forward in the future so that these projects and these homeowners can use their property in the manner that they intended and that they see their neighbors using.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's how I'm interpreting what you're doing here.
That's exactly it.
Any other questions, comments? If you're desiring to move this forward this evening, there is on packet page 30 a recommended motion. If you're not, we'll entertain anything else that you would like to do with us this evening.
Move to approve site plan number 17014. A request to amend the approved site plans for Cobblestone Preserve Plan Development, PD, to incorporate a maximum of 25% lot coverage standard for a unit that does not have an approved plan from the Livingston County Health Department showing active and reserved septic fields, and a maximum lot coverage standard for a unit that does have an approved plan from the Livingston County Health Department showing active and reserved septic fields. The approval should be based on the following, no, we don't need that, do we? We want to include that?
Yeah, I think he wants that
Okay.
in there.
Okay, approval is based on the following findings. The entire Cobblestone Preserve residential development already contains approximately 26% open space within the development, which is a unique feature for this development, and allows the individual site condominium units to have a higher lot coverage standard. The planned development for Cobblestone Preserve permitted smaller site condominium units that would have been otherwise permitted in the SR zoning district. 3, the PD for Cobblestone Preserve has a significant amount of open space as part of this development. Number 4, many of the existing single-family homes on the individual site condominium units already exceed the existing lot coverage standards.
I'll support that with one little change there. I think you left out the 30% part when we talked
did?
about the
I did?
getting coverage, the maximum coverage, so.
And the maximum 30%? Okay.
Okay.
Well, we certainly want that in there.
Yeah.
Here, skipped right over it. Okay, so we have a motion to approve site plan application number 1704 from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Newsom. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations. Next up on our agenda would be item 7B. This is site plan application number 17-010 Hunters Ridge, Fox Ridge, PD amendment. And once again, I think we'll turn it over to our planning director, Troy Langer, for an explanation.
All right. This is a site plan of the...
Is the applicant here?
Yep. Easy. This is a site plan. The Planning Commission saw this at their July 27th meeting. Just to give you just some background information, this development was approved a number of years ago. I'll call it before the recession. They started construction. Some of the buildings were built. The clubhouse, I call it a clubhouse, it's a pool house, if you will. There's a swimming pool there, were constructed. And then the project came to a stop. It ended, it went, bank ended up owning it, and the bank sold it, and MJC acquired it from the bank and now wants to, the site plan expired, and MJC, the applicant, wanted to essentially pick the project up from, I'll call it the recession, and kind of move the project forward. There were a couple changes to it. The unit that is right here on the main drive that abuts Fox Ridge was altered. The building was a 12-unit building. It was brought down to a 6-unit building. Other than that, primarily it's the same project. It's this, buildings look similar to what had been approved by the township before. This is the site plan was ultimately approved by the Planning Commission at that meeting on July 27th. The applicant also had brought forth an amendment to the PD agreement. That amendment requires not only Planning Commission recommendation, it will require Township Board approval. The attorney has, well, the Planning Commission did not act on the PD agreement, so that part of the project remained unresolved. The attorney has reviewed the PD agreement. I've provided comments in the staff report. You have a letter from the attorney, but in addition to the letter, I kind of want to highlight that I did speak with the attorney, and although he didn't provide a supplemental letter, the attorney had concerns about putting new owners in, this would become Hunter's Ridge. The attorney wants to have those owners on notice to pay their fair share of road improvements, including the road in the Fox Ridge, which is this portion over here. And the attorney wants to see the master deed to
When you say attorney, you're referring to
Township's
attorney.
Yep,
Okay. 'Cause
our
there's
attorney.
two letters in our packets regarding
Yep.
yours.
So our attorney has requested to see the master deed before it's recorded to verify that there's sufficient language in there. Our attorney also requested MJC's attorney to provide an opinion that they have proper use of the existing roadways. And our attorney has indicated we're just going to rely on their legal counsel's position on that. So ultimately what we've got is we still have to deal with the PD amendment. You have a copy of that before you. Our attorney, township attorney, did not have real significant comments on that itself. His comments are more directed towards the master deed. So there's a recommendation in there to require the applicant to provide a copy of that master deed before it's recorded so our attorney can review it. I'll leave it open. This isn't your typical site plan where you go through point by point all of the criteria, so I'll leave it open for any questions or comments you've got on this one.
Well, first we'll let the applicant introduce himself and anything you'd like to add.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me tonight. My name is Mario Izzi. I'm with MJC Companies, 46600 Romeo Plank, Macomb Township, and that's 48044. Basically, I'm just going to let the township planner's report stand. The conditions that have been recommended based on the attorney's opinion, the township attorney's opinion, I have no issue with that. It's customary to submit the master deed for review to the municipality. We have nothing to hide. We encourage to have that reviewed. It's good to have another set of legal eyes on it. As far as future expenses and putting future residents on notice, we're obligated under the Condominium Act to provide a disclosure statement to future buyers. In that disclosure statement, it will talk about and reference certain paragraphs that are going to be in the master deed that talk about these fees, future costs for road maintenance, landscape. If we were invited to be part of the changing facility in the pool, that would be part of it also. So yes, we have no problem submitting this document for review. And we have to have a disclosure statement, otherwise we'd have huge liability if we did not. So
Are those expenses typically, if we got 260 units, is it, it costs X dollars typically divided by 260? Is it usually a equal pay type of a thing. I think one of the Fox Ridge questions will probably be, do they have to pay to fix their road when you drive over it?
We're going to propose that it's based pro rata based on the total number of residents for both developments. That's the only fair way to do it. That's how this development was originally intended to go forward.
Correct.
Whether we're part of the master association or not, I think ultimately in the future we'd like to get there. I just think there's still some missing information that we have to provide going forward as far as what we want to do with the landscape signage, a final landscape signage, if we do anything at all. We've already talked about the pool and the changing facility, but yet there's been some possibility to invite or sell memberships to our future residents, which I'm open to. That's fine. But as far as going forward, we'd like to go forward. We'd like to pick this development up and get it finished, to get going. We're here tonight to talk about the PD agreement, the master deed, the disclosure statement, the Exhibit B drawings, the bylaws. We cannot record that document, therefore we cannot get parcel IDs and addresses until that document is recorded. So the township, basically, you hold the cards, as far as that goes. We just like to move forward with the PD agreement. That's the first step in this process. So.
Yeah, mine was more of a general question. I'm familiar with just take the expenses and divide it by the number of units.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't matter. There's no difference between a Fox Ridge resident and a Hunters Ridge.
Correct, because ultimately, excuse me for interrupting, ultimately, when all the roads are in the future phase, all these residents are going to walk their dog, ride their bike, drive their car through. So whether that's 5 years or 10 years from now, I don't know. I hope it's sooner, but that's the intention of being fair to maintain these roads in these common areas in the landscape. So.
Okay. Do we have any?
You own the future phase up to the top,
This area?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
That area too?
Yes, sir.
And that's not being proposed to be developed at this time?
That's part of the site plan approval. Tonight we're just the PD agreement, the amendment to the PD agreement, but the future units to the north were part of the site plan approval.
We approved that. What you see right there is what we reapproved a month or two ago.
July 27th.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Correct. We've had, if I may add, we've had a couple of meetings with the Master Association, a few phone calls, several emails. I think the dialogue is going well. We haven't cured everything, but we're going to keep the dialogue going. We're still some of the big issues are going to be construction access through this road. I've been in conversation with the DPW director to possibly access with our heavy construction, our heavy deliveries from the west, from the DPW building. We don't know if that's going to happen for sure, but that's a possibility. We've offered to maintain that gravel road, add maintenance aggregate, whatever we can do to try to reduce the amount of construction traffic through the existing road system, at least the heavy deliveries. The day-to-day guys who pick up trucks, that's going to happen. I mean, that's going to come in. The other issue...
Are you talking about this entrance right here?
No.
No, sir.
No.
Further west. Your DPW...
So I'm just looking at aerial photo on my phone. Troy, do you have Google Maps up where you could pull that up just to get maybe a better feel for where exactly that would connect to?
Well, just bear with me
Thank
here. I'm trying to learn this system. So this is M59 here, 23. This is Fox Ridge over here, so I'm going to zoom in so you get your bearing. This is the road that goes back in, and then this is the township water tower site, and this is the area that I've asked the applicant to work with Township Public Works Director. Maybe the township could get some improvement to this road going back here, to then also allow them to kind of come on in this way with their construction vehicles. I've kind of just brought the parties together, and I've stepped aside, and hopefully they can work it out. That's about all I know.
So that would be the shortest distance, I would guess, easiest compared to this right here.
Yeah, this involves getting permission from another private property owner. I've reached out to that property owner as well to see if that's something that's amenable. I don't necessarily, I can't really comment on that. I don't have a good answer for you, but the applicant can always contact them on their own and do that. But I've tried to get, I know the residents were very concerned about it, and at the end of the day, I go home and have to deal with, well, how can I help out? And I reached out to Mario and said, is there any, well, I've talked with the Public Works Director, and is there anything that could be done here? And tried to find a solution.
And so you're only suggesting that this be used for heavy equipment, not all construction
Well,
traffic?
In all honesty, we would tell all of our workers, you have to use this. This is the way we want you to access the road. But I'm just, in all reality, the guy coming back from lunch, he might forget and he might go through. Even though we would scold him and encourage everybody to go through the DPW route just to minimize the amount of traffic. Especially, again, the deliveries are going to be huge. Trusses, block, concrete trucks. That's...
You do have to recognize that this group of residents kind of got, stuck high and dry when the developer walked away from this particular development. And it was the township, I think, that kind of held on to the deposit to make sure that things got done that needed to get done, because it wasn't sure what the next future part of the development. So the idea here is I can see their point, and I understand you're just being realistic by suggesting that you're going to have some guys coming in and out of it. But at the end of the day, I like what Troy's proposing. I hope that we can work something out. It just seems like tearing up their existing roads after, we don't want to have to do that.
And I don't want that either.
Because guess what?Ey're not going to scream at you. Guess who they're going to scream at?
Yeah, they're going to call the township.
So, I'm just telling you.
And if I may...
I understand where they're coming from.
Well, you might be able to encourage the DPW director to
I'll talk to Bob.
have an open phone line for that conversation.
Yeah, I think that we find a solution.
Yep.
This is the kind of stuff that, it would be different if we didn't have another access. Then we would be talking something else, maybe large deposits.
Yep.
If I'm... Excuse me.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
One more item. Next week, we were planning on brush hogging the site just to get it cleared up, because we've already offered to video document the road and the site just for the township and for the existing homeowners association. So we want to have that done as well, and in a professional manner, just like you do an MDOT project, so that there'll be a record of what's normal wear and tear versus if, God forbid, a delivery truck gets in there and before we're able to stop them if there's some damage. But I just drove through the site. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. The roads are in pretty good shape. Looks like they've been seal coated, joint sealed. The curbs seem to be in pretty good shape, and we all want to keep it that way.
And so to me, it's all that. It's the wear and tear of the road, but it's also the safety of the residents and the kids that are, and the people that are walking and that are active.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that is part of all the master deed and all those types of things. This is not for the PD agreement. We kind of went off, but it is the big issue.
It's no problem. I'm happy to
It's really
discuss
the
it.
big issue.
Yes, sir.
So, are there any questions or comments on the PD amendment that they're proposing? It's reasonably straightforward. Troy, do you want to add any more to it? Explain any more of what it is? Anybody have any
No,
questions for him?
Just make sure that, I've got a motion in there to recommend. At this point, we're just recommending approval, and there's only a couple, basically one condition, that the attorney review the master deed. If you got any other conditions you want to add that are pertinent to the PD amendment itself, feel free to add them.
Okay, if not, you'll find on the bottom of packet page 51, if you are so inclined, that motion that Troy referenced.
Move to recommend approval of PD amendment to site plan number 17-010, a request to amend the previously approved Fox Ridge Plan development based on the following findings. Number one, the amendment of the plan development would clarify the existing plan development by changing dates of various phases that have already expired. Two, the amendment to the plan development will permit a successor developer to complete the previously approved Fox Ridge residential development. Approval of the PD amendment is made subject to the following conditions. The proposed amendment and master deed and bylaws for Hunter's Ridge shall comply with the requirements of the township attorney.
I'll support that.
Okay. We have a motion to recommend approval on site plan application number 17-010 from Commissioner Voigt, second from Commissioner Newsom. Any further discussion?
Could I
Yep.
propose that we put a second stipulation in that states that specifically that the master deed and the bylaws for Hunter Ridge shall adequately indicate to new residents that they have an obligation to pay their fair share of costs for road improvements and other shared easements. And the only reason I propose that is in condition number 1, the township attorney's letter doesn't specifically make that statement, even though there was discussion likewise. So I offer it as a positive that we ensure that the master deed and the bylaws will have a statement in them.
Okay, I think they're required to, but if you two are okay with that amendment to that, are you fine with that? Okay, so as you can get that in the minutes?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a site plan, number 17-010, that we have recommended approval to the Township Board as amended here this evening from Commissioner Voigt and Commissioner Newsom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
The Board of Trustees meeting is next week.
Yeah.
Do we have,
No, the packet for the township board already went out,
Okay.
and to my knowledge, we've never sent the packet out not knowing exactly how this was going to go. So we'll try to get you on not next week's township board meeting, but the next one after that. I couldn't tell you the date off the
so
top
it'll be
of my head.
October?
Give you plenty of
No,
time.
they're every 2 weeks.
Should be in
Joe, do you have your
September.
meeting schedule?
Yeah, I have it right here. Bring it up.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Our next meeting is this one on the 19th, and the next one's the 3rd.
October
19th.
3rd.
October 3rd. And do I need to do anything between now and then? Make application, so it'll automatically go
Yeah.
with the recommendation
Oh,
from
wait
the
a
planning
minute, let me see
commission?
if there's one, nope, there's not one on the 26th, sorry.
Okay, October 3rd. And Troy, it's automatically just moves. He asked.
Yep.
He has nothing else to do? It'll just,
No, I'll reach out to him.
okay.
To let him know. I'll try to reach out to Mr. Bracco, let him know that as well, if he wants to attend the township board meeting. When I send an email to Mr. Bracco, I'm hoping he can send it to whomever else he wants to, and they'll attend the meeting. And I'll send one to him as well to let him know.
If it's okay, just real quick, I think we would probably feel comfortable moving forward with submitting the master deed and the bylaws between now and then.
Yep, you can. I'll just
For
send them
review,
off.
just to start the process, if that's okay. I don't.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, excellent.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
All right.
Good
Have a good evening. Thank you. Next up, item 8 is call to the public. Anyone? Okay, we'll close call to the public. Troy, planners report. Do you have anything for us this evening?
No.
All right. Committee reports, comments, anyone? Okay, I think we can move to a really brief recess. I think this moved quicker than you thought. Are you guys okay if this recess is like 15 seconds long?
Sure.